You're on.
All right. Good evening, everyone. I am Bella Antoine, the chair for the Parks and Beautification Committee, and I am so happy to have a great team of people with me because I can't do it on my own. Those beautiful events that we did and the thing that we will be doing. So I really say thank you for everything that you did for this community and for the community board as well. This is our meeting for February 2024. We are about to get started. In our agenda, we have um, 8 big items to cover, and one of them is the welcome and introduction that I really love to do because sometimes we need to check in. So I will call your name, and you can go ahead and introduce yourself. You can give your name and anything that you would like to see this committee accomplish for 2024. So it's 2 things: your name and anything that you would love us to do for 2024. I will start with Ms. Henderson. Go ahead and introduce yourself and anything that you would like to see this group doing for 2024. I can't hear you, Ms. Henderson. So then I can move to Mr. Ted. Mr. Ted, can you please go ahead, introduce yourself,
Yeah.
and say one thing that you would like to see this group accomplish for 2024?
Okay. Good evening, everyone. My name is George Tate, board member, committee member. And one thing I would like to see is like we did with Pelican Park one year and then Tilden Park. We would like to see that continued and we find another park where we can beautify and do some planting of flowers.
Great, great. Thank you. Not taken. We have 2 um, reps here, Brooklyn Partnership for Park, and then we have Ms. Taylor here. I think we will have some information on how we will be working together for 2024. I will go now to Ms. Adam.
Good evening, Bennett, committee member. I'd like us to continue as is and continue cleaning up the parks and beautifying them and finding some new parks somewhere in our district to beautify and to update.
Thank you, thank you. I am going now to Ms. Turner. I think the 18 phone number thing ending with 18, Ms. Turner, I think.
Yeah, that's me. Good evening, everyone. Linda Turner, committee member. I'd like us to continue the path that we're on in terms of upgrading our parks and beautifying them.
Thank you. So I will go to Ms. Anderson. Can you hear us now? Okay, I think she's still muted. Ms. Taylor, hi. Can you please introduce yourself and tell us anything that you think our community can do for 2024? That will be a great accomplishment or a great task that we can do for 2024.
Yes, so good evening, everyone. My name is Rona Taylor. For 2024, I'm really looking forward to, in addition to beautifying our community, looking forward to building community because we've had some incredible people come and volunteer. And one of the highlights of last year was having a very young person who was helping us and planting daffodils. She just lives like 1 block from the park, and in the spring she can go back to the park and see the fruits of her labor. So that to me is very exciting, that she can make that type of connection with a place in her neighborhood.
Yes, thank you. And I will go now to Ms. Chamberlain. Please introduce yourself and let us know if there is anything you would like to see this committee accomplish for 2024.
Yeah, sure. Hi, everyone. So I'm Carly. So I'm with Partnerships for Parks. I'll be speaking about that a bit more thoroughly in a few minutes. But man, that's a hard question. I know even from some of the conversations we've had, so many different visions, I think, for Community Board 17 in the East Flatbush area. I definitely want to echo what Rona had mentioned about building community as well. I would really like to see uh, some intergenerational projects and programming for the family where, the types of information and tasks are relevant to all, in very diverse communities of different ages as well. So that's something I think I'm looking forward to, for this year is building on that kind of vision.
Yes, thank you. I think the chair forgot to say one thing. I forgot to say that I'm calling this meeting to order. Although I said that I would start, but I forgot to say that I'm calling this meeting to order. So I apologize for that. I also see Mr. Ted, you raised your hand. Do you have something to add or a question?
Yeah, no, something to add, which I forgot. The other thing I would like to see if the committee could push a little more towards getting lights around the park, especially around Patagat Park. Because last week, one night last week, I went for a walk in the evening, and the difference between Patagat Park and Amersfoort Park is, no pun intended, like day and night. You could walk around Amersfoort Park and you could see everything. It's bright. But when you come back over here to Patagat Park, it's completely dark, especially around the baseball field. That area is
Mhm.
completely dark. But at Amersfoort Park, you could see from one end of the block to the other. I would like to see the same thing happen at Amersfoort, over here at Patagat Park.
Thank you, thank you. I also see Mr. Brida Costa or Mrs. Da Costa on the call. Can you please
Yes.
introduce yourself and say one thing that you would like to see this committee accomplish for 2024?
Hi, this is Bree DaCosta, and Ricky is actually on the call with me. We're sharing the phone this evening. And I didn't hear that next question. You said what we want to see for 2024 as far as parks?
Correct. Yes.
Well, we're very passionate about Tilden Park and big improvements there. I think, ideally, we're just hoping that we can move forward with some sort of request for discretionary spending to get the park in good condition for the kids in the community to continue to utilize the park. I just feel like, going around Brooklyn and seeing parks that have gotten the attention and the renovations that they needed, I hope can, come to this side of East Flatbush, because I do think that the park has been neglected for quite some time, and we'd like to, hopefully see that addressed.
Thank you. Did I forget anyone? No. Okay. Thank you. I don't know. I know that Ms. Fraser sometimes is busy working. I don't know if the DM would like to address the committee tonight and say anything that you would like to see happening for our committee for this year. I know that you really support this committee, and I thank you for that. Anything that you would like to add?
Good evening, everyone. Yes, thank you so much, Ms. Burlott. First, let me say that this committee is extremely active, and I certainly admire all the initiatives that you've engaged in over the past year. They've been very, very fruitful. I just sent Ms. Burlott an email, I think 2 days ago, notifying her that the bulbs in the office, I have 12 bags remaining. They're almost gone. Um, I would just like to say continue doing the good work. The community is benefiting. I totally share Mr. Tate's request. Let's try to move around in the community and ensure that all the parks that are located in District 17 receive the full attention that they all need. We have kids that play in all the different parks, so it's important for us to ensure that the parks are reconstructed. If you notice that work needs to be done, bring it to our attention. That's what the capital and expense budget process is for. And any other amenities that you think can be added to enhance the park, certainly share with us, and we will assist in moving the process along. So again, thank you, Ms. Burlat, and to each and every committee member. I've seen your work throughout the year. And Ms. Burlat, as Ms. Burlat said, it's not just her that's doing the work, but she has the help of each and every member. So thank you again for your dedication and your commitment to the enhancement of CB17. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Fraser, and thank you for your great assistance, and thank you also for partnership for parks for the daffodils, because we really need to beautify our community. As the minutes, for some time now, the minutes are online, so committee members can go on the CB17 website, right, Ms. Fraser, and listen to the minutes for the last meeting.
The transcript.
So
the transcripts are online. Yeah. The
Yeah.
transcript should be online. I'll make sure I'll talk to the communications chair to ensure they're posted. I'm catching up. I just received, I think, 15 to 20 transcribed meeting minutes. There were several committees because, as you know, I am extremely short on staff. There are days I'm the only one in the office. There are days when the office has to be closed if I have meetings or I have to leave a little early. It has been tedious. We are looking to hire, we're looking to schedule a special meeting for the 15th. So members who are on this meeting, look out for your WebEx link. And that would be to select the candidate, the assistant district manager to assist me in the office. But I have been overwhelmed, to say the least. I have so much time on the books that I'm telling the chair, a time I have to utilize some of my time. I'm on the clock since 8:30 this morning, and I'm still here. And for the past couple of months, this has been my schedule. So please forgive me, but we're trying very hard to make sure all the minutes are completed and we're up back to par with no backlogs. Thank you so much for your patience and understanding.
Thank you, Ms. Fraser. Now, as a report, I will be brief. Before this meeting, I met with a lot of people. Among them, we had a meeting with Partnership for Parks and also with Ms. Taylor. I always forget the name of the agency. Then she will let us know soon. So we talk about how we can collaborate to have a beautiful 2024. A lot of things will happen. Among them will be some planting, some pruning, and then we mentioned other parks to visit so we can see what needs to be done. Remember last year we had a survey where we asked the community what needs to be done, and then we will go back and review this survey and see which park need us the most. The second park that we will visit will be, we did a visit actually, we visited the Railroad Park and we see what needs to be done, so that's one. Secondly, a visit is planned for the Nostrand Avenue Park, so we will do that. So those two parks will be the most urgent park that we'll be working on. I also had a meeting. I also had a conversation with representatives from the councilman's office for Councilwoman Lewis. Mr. Daniel, he will soon be coming because we'll be talking about some discretionary fund, how we can get that and use that for Children Park. So for the people asking for Children Park, get your questions ready. So Daniel will soon be here. And we also discussed working collaboration. So this is why Ms. Chandler will do a presentation so we can go back for people who didn't participate to the previous training. So she will do a presentation in a few minutes. And then also Ms. Taylor will introduce her organization because we'll be working with them and with some other partners. So it's very important for us to know people who didn't work with them, so they have an idea of the two big agencies, big supporters that we have for this community. So then I will, if there is any question for me, I will answer for now, and I will ask Ms. Chamberlain to get ready for a presentation. No question, then I will pass the mic to Ms. Chamberlain for a presentation. Thank you.
Yeah, sure. Hi, everyone. Berlot, I was wondering if you have the slides that you're able to pull up.
Sure.
If not, it's totally fine, but I can send you the link too again.
I have them. You can start and then I will open that email.
Okay, yeah, sure, that's fine. Again, hi. So I'm Carly Shambly. So I'm the Brooklyn Community Engagement Coordinator. So I work with Partnerships for Parks, which is a joint program. I know, most of you are familiar with partnerships, but just even as a refresher, or if there's anyone new on the meeting tonight, I just wanted to share some context for the kind of support that Partnerships for Parks can provide to CB17 and to the East Flatbush community. So Partnerships for Parks is a joint program. So it's kind of like a brainchild of the New York City Parks Department and the City Parks Foundation. So what we do with our community engagement team, so we work with different volunteer groups. Sometimes this can look very grassroots, there can be maybe 2 or 3 volunteers. Other times it can take the shape of, a larger organization or a coalition, community board. So a lot of different identities, right, of groups that are interested in stewardship, like in their local parks. So we kind of help those groups navigate through the existing Parks Department resources, especially when it comes to, planning out stewardship projects. So one of our biggest initiatives is called It's My Park. So I know there have been a few It's My Park days now in CB17 from 2023. And I'll show some pictures soon of that, but I know we had one at Tilden, one at Padgett. So that's kind of like the bread and butter of what we do with our Partnerships for Parks community engagement team, is to help volunteer groups set up those kinds of projects for stewardship. What we can also do is serve as a liaison, for the community and different park staff and different divisions of the Parks Department. So any kind of information that you're needing, this can be, info about special events, permits, if you're wanting to hold an event in your local park, or any kind of updates on capital projects, or ways that you can get your voices directly to the people in the Parks Department that are needed. Because I know with, such a large bureaucratic agency, I know some things do kind of get lost in translation, right? So having that kind of liaison there to directly transfer that information to the staff is definitely one way that we aim to support our volunteers in our community. In addition to that, there are also some resources on the City Parks Foundation side that we, want to relay to groups and connect to groups. So City Parks Foundation is a nonprofit. So on that end, they support volunteer groups in terms of, funding opportunities and grants. They have workshops and trainings, that are open to the public, open for volunteers, and can also share, information on what some of their programming has looked like in the past, so they can advise for groups that are, interested in facilitating projects of their own. And I will say, just to kind of distinguish between the different projects that we do, so we do have a volunteer program that facilitates projects. So they work more episodically, like with nonprofits and with schools and sometimes with businesses and corporations for those kinds of one-off projects, right? So let's say you have a large park and you have one area that you want to tackle and you want to have one big event with a lot of volunteers. That's more so what the episodic programming is going to look like. But what we do with community engagement, we're working towards a more independent framework, right? So I know we've discussed this with Berlat. I know I've spoken with Rona as well about the vision of having, multiple volunteer groups. We call them like friends of groups, right? So having a friends of Tilden and friends of Padgett. So having, people in their very local communities that are really passionate about their hyper local space, as well as the neighborhood overall. So that's kind of the goals that we are already working towards, and I think there's definitely been a lot of momentum in 2023 with some of the projects that we've already completed. Which this is perfect timing, Berlat. Thank you. Yeah, so I just wanted to show some pictures as well, just to show the work that you all have done. Kind of, like Miss Frazier was mentioning earlier, this all goes back to you, right? This all goes back to the time and the energy and the investment, and the sacrifice that you make because you know the benefits and the purpose. And I think when it comes to parks and open spaces, right, just seeing all of the resources that are available, not only with the ecosystem, but socially, and with community ties and bringing a community together through programming, and also, sharing that connection with the natural world and sharing that with others is a huge value. And that's something, even personally, one of the reasons why I got into this work, was to kind of foster that kind of social connection, to the natural world. Because I've, seen its benefits time and time again. And it's something that, brings a lot of joy, and it's also hard work. It also, requires patience. It requires persistence as well. So that's something I want to, continue to work with you all through in this 2024 year, especially when it comes to, the larger scale projects, and things that, the Parks Department with funding, could be able to support. So yeah, I see here projects ahead for 2024. So just wanted to bring this up as well. I know Berlat had mentioned this too, because we've gone on a couple of site visits, but I really would like to just hear from you all about, specific ideas that you have in mind. So I know for 2023, we really focused on Tilden and Padgett Park. But there are a lot of other opportunities out there, right? A lot of other spaces. And we're hoping that, by branching out with the work that we do, that will also increase visibility, in those particular neighborhoods. Like, hey, this is going on right here. Like, there are volunteers coming together, or there's a community event happening in this space that's right across the street from where I live, right? So I think that's one of the goals that we have for 2024, is branching out to these parks that, may not receive a lot of love and a lot of funding, but from the community, they are very tight-knit spaces, or are opportunities to become that, right? There's a lot of untapped resources there. So some of the parks that we had mentioned, so Railroad Playground was one of them. I know there were some specific tasks that I think would be, very, very simple to coordinate through an It's My Park project, like through Partnerships for Parks. So that could be a tree mulching project. I know we mentioned painting as well. So that's another type of task that partnerships can help coordinate, and provide the supplies for. So we have paints, paint supplies. We could even get you the full paint suits, if you're needing that as well. As we can go all out with painting. But there are some painting opportunities at Railroad as well, with the handball, as well as the fencing of the basketball court, some horticulture projects as well. And then at Padgett, I know a couple of you had mentioned native plantings, right? So I know in the fall, we did a project at Padgett that involved tree care. So I know a lot of you, were able to come out and help mulch the trees and protect them for the winter season. And I want to say thank you to Rona as well for that, and for the CXSE CDC coalition. And that's also another, resource that we do want to be using, and collaborating with for 2024. But there are definitely plans for that as well. I know on the slide I had put a local school group that's also been interested in planting a pollinator garden at one of the entrances at Padgett. So that could be, a very good opportunity to bring in youth and teens, and native plant education as well, and to have a kind of long-term relationship and long-term maintenance of the space. Then some other areas in mind as well with Nostrand Playground. There are some garden beds over there. So we are hoping at some time in the spring to get a planting and a weeding project together for that space, and to kind of talk through, finding volunteers who would be interested in tending to these spaces in the long term. Because I think that's not necessarily a caveat, but it's a very important note, I think, when it comes to stewardship and project planning, because the Parks Department itself, they have their daily operations, right? They have their maintenance and operations team that comes out. They have their gardeners. But in addition to that, there's always going to be a need for park stewardship, right? Whether that comes to cleanups, or whether that comes to plantings and weedings. So, for people in the community who are interested in doing that, that's really where I come in and try to find, what resources are available, and what supplies are available, and what sources of funding might be available, to keep that kind of stewardship going in the long term, right? And to make it last, and to make it sustainable. So yeah, those were some, things that we have had in mind, in addition to some community events that we would like to hold in CB17 as well. And I wanted to also mention, before I forget, so there are some dates I can put this in the chat as well, and I'll send everything to Berlat, if afterwards she wants to distribute it to everyone. But one thing with grants, so we did just have a grant open up through the City Parks Foundation. So it's called the Green Fund Grassroots Grant. So that is open to our community partners, as well as potential community partners or just, organizations or groups who are in need of funding, for the type of projects or programming that they would like to do. So one big thing about this is it's not just limited to parks property, so there's a big emphasis on open space in general and how to maximize that and how to utilize that for the community. So that's been one of the big focuses of this grant. So that just opened on Monday, so February 5th. So that could also be an opportunity for the community board, as well as other, local partners that you may be connected with, to see if that could be an avenue for funding, in the East Flatbush community as well. So that's called the Green Fund Grassroots Grant, and I'll put that in the chat as well. Just a couple other things. We do have some workshops coming up. So this is on the City Parks Foundation side. So we have a general, we have one virtual, one in person. So this is It's My Park refresher. So this is for volunteers who, they might be new in their relationship with Partnerships for Parks, or they are wanting to kind of gain more experience and more confidence with leading volunteer projects. So we do have one virtual coming up that's going to be February 28th. So that is happening this month. And then we have one in person if you're willing to go all the way to Queensbridge Park, which I know is a bit far for most who are living in this district. But I'm happy to put that into the chat as well. You're more than welcome to come. There is another workshop on the power of native plants. So we're going to have some of our staff who are working with volunteers, as well as working with the horticulture team to give a presentation about native plants, some of the technical knowledge about plants, but also, how to kind of shape your volunteer and stewardship work with that in mind, right? With the power of native plants in mind, and how to, really utilize again the open spaces that we do have, especially for horticulture projects like that. So yeah, just wanted to promote that a bit. You are all more than welcome to attend. I'll put that in the chat as well. But yeah, I appreciate you listening, and whatever direction you want to take, Berlad, if if people did want to continue to share some of their ideas with me directly, I mean, I'm happy to receive that as well.
I think there is one hand for question. Thank you, Ms. Tremblay. Oh, I see one hand. I see two. Let me go to Ms. Adele first, and then Mr. Tate, you will be next. Ms. Adele?
Oh, yes. Is there any way that we can possibly bring in, say, like a mini farmer's market, like the part down at Grand Army Plaza? Can you hear me?
Did you say bring in a market?
Farmer's market.
Oh, to where?
Well, maybe Railroad Park, Patrick Park would be nice, big enough to hold it.
I see. So that's something that would, I know it gets very tricky with food. I think with food and with selling inside of parks property. So that's something that would need to go through the process of getting a special events permit. as well as finding potential vendors. So something, I mean, I'd be happy to do, you know, I can reach out to some of the existing farmers markets and see kind of what their decision-making process is like, because I'm not very familiar with farmers markets in East Flatbush. But I think there's an opportunity, even if something is not inside of a park, if it could be something, um, you know, parallel to a park or kind of bordering. So in that case, it would need a street permit.
Yes.
So yeah, I mean, I think that's, sorry, Adele?
I said, I know, I've been to the one in Grand Army Plaza.
Oh,
And where
Grand
the
Army
library
Plaza.
is, the park is right there.
Yeah, yeah. So I know that is an arrangement that I imagine is made through the citywide special events team in the Parks Department.
Mm-hmm.
So that's something I'm happy to follow up on. I know there would be a lot of, just a disclaimer, would be a lot of logistics involved in that. But even if there was some kind of one-off event, you know, that would maybe feature some local produce shops or something like that, that's something that can potentially also be arranged through Partnerships for Parks, in addition to having a special events permit. So yeah, there are some ways I think to kind of work through that. It's just going to, I think, require you know, a lot of external support. But I'm happy to check in on that, you know, on the park side and see what the special events process would look like.
All right, thank you.
And I have Mr. Ted. I think, I don't know, Ms. Fraser, if you are listening, there is someone who said she's trying to get in. I don't know, maybe she has the wrong link. Yeah. Mr. Ted, you have a question?
Sorry, who's trying to get in?
Yes.
Miss Gordon texted me. She said that she was trying to get in.
Okay,
I don't know if you have the right link. Yeah.
I'll check. Thank you. Sorry about that, Mr. Tate.
Good evening again, Ms. Chambly. Yeah, this is George Tate. And as you may be aware, this summer, the Parks Department planted a lot of trees in our district. Like, so I was wondering if that grant that you were referred to, and you also mentioned it could be used for open space. If so, if getting some borders around those plants that they planted, those trees that they planted, would that be possible? Because it would deter people from using them as their dogs' toilet to make it into and dumping garbage. Because I know they planted about at least 6 of them on my block, and basically there's 2 near me, and I have to keep cleaning them up because they have the dog poop, they have the garbage over there. So if they had a little fences or a little border around it, it would make it a little harder for the dogs to just walk in, or the people walking the dog to let the dogs walk in there.
Yeah,
So,
yeah. I think that's a great idea and a great observation that you've made as well. And thank you for taking care of the tree pits too. I know for me, even personally, when I'm walking past some, and you can go past some blocks where it just looks pristine, you know, and then you go to others and there's all kind of trash, or you know, dogs have been in it, and just you know, and then you want to, and those trees are put there for a reason, right? They have a lot of ecological benefits. They have also just social benefits for the community and provide shade. Um, I think that is a really solid idea. I know we have had some other groups that have used grants to install official tree guards, you know, outside of the street trees. So that doesn't necessarily have to be trees that are, you know, bordering a park either. So that can just be trees that, you know, are outside of your block as well. So that's something I would be confident in saying that through this grant that would be eligible. And I'll also put in the chat, we do have some info sessions that the grants team is putting on specifically about this grant. So that would be a great, I think, venue, you know, to be asking specific questions like this and getting information directly from the grants team, and how to maybe shape that, you know, and tell, you know, tell that story, provide that kind of request, you know, in the grant application itself. But yeah, I mean, there's definitely precedent, you know, for groups using grants like these to install tree guards, because I mean, personally, I think it does make it does make a difference in the protection of the tree itself, and is you know, a disincentive, I think, for especially for dogs. You know, it's going to be harder for them to get there. So yeah, that's a very good
Okay.
note.
Thank you. And the grant would have to be, it would have to be a not-for-profit to apply for this grant, right?
So not necessarily. So with this grant, so City Parks Foundation can provide fiscal sponsorship
Okay.
for groups. Yeah, so there's a process of going through that. And I can, you know, give her a lot more information on that as well. Yeah, but not being a 501c3 would not disqualify you from this grant.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you so much. And I think whoever would like to be on that that call for the grant, because I know last year actually we did it, but we didn't finish the process. I would love it if we could have some members to actually be on that call for the grant. Maybe, you know, we can ask more questions and work together to submit this application, because I think we can benefit from that. Last year we didn't finish it, but this year we have a chance of, you know, using this money. I don't know if there is any more question before I go. I give it to Ms. Taylor, and I also see that Mr. Daniel is here from Councilwoman Farah Lewis. I will ask if there is more questions before giving it to Ms. Taylor, and then that will be Mr. Daniel that will speak to us. Any more questions for Ms. Chambly?
Berlot. Oh.
Yes.
I'm sorry. I do, Linda Turner. I have a question for the young lady regarding this. When George Tate was our chairperson, which should put us around 22 or 21, we went to Patagat Park and we had a big day of planting flowers. It was a dry summer, and we didn't get rain. And the parks people did not water our flowers, so basically all of our work was in vain. And the plumbing broke that day also. The question is there any way, if we plant in the various parks, that we can get them watered on a regular basis if it's, say, a park that is not near our homes, it's in a different area but within the confines of Community Board 17. How do we get these new plants watered so they can take root?
Yeah, that is a great question and an endless question, right? Because I know water is can be one of the biggest challenges, especially to stewardship work, you know, to volunteer work that, you know, involves planting projects, weeding, and maintenance. Something that, you know, we are trying to work through, I think, with Partnerships for Parks. You know, when we have site visits with the park managers and with the volunteer groups that are interested in doing planting projects, really thinking ahead and trying to be very mindful of like what the existing watering resources are there. You know, is there a park house or the restrooms, you know, that water can be tapped into, you know, that volunteers could potentially use to water. You know, is there a hydrant that the group would be able to access? Another with the watering operation with the parks department, you know, even depending on the water supply that they have internally within the park, sometimes there's nothing there, right? So there is a water truck that comes through and can, you know, water those areas that are needing to be watered, but more often than not, it doesn't come around when it needs to come around, right? And that has been happening, I'd say a good bit these, and I'm not sure what this has looked like in the past with water access, but it seems to definitely be one of those ongoing challenges that we really are trying to think creatively about. I know, for example, I'll bring this up. So over at Canarsie Park, there was a Girl Scout group that designed a pollinator garden. And so it was behind the park house, a little further back. The Parks Department themselves didn't have any extra hoses that the volunteers could use. So Partnerships was able to supply extra hoses for those volunteers to tap into the water at the park house and then use that to water the pollinator garden as well. I know some other things, for example, you know, trying to help provide hydrant access for volunteer groups. That's something that we're still advocating for. It's been a bit of a challenge, I think, with getting hydrant permits for volunteers, because that has to do with DEP and not parks. So we've been, you know, trying to find ways to collaborate with DEP and, you know, provide waivers and provide spigots, you know, for them to be able to access water on a regular basis. But yeah, it's something that is continuously worked through, and it is really also dependent on the resources of the park itself, right? And what is existent there. I know some, you know, some things that could be in mind even for a grant application, for example, is if there is going to be something like a pollinator garden space, maybe if there's a way to invest in like a rain barrel system as well, you know, so that's something that would just get park approval, especially if a volunteer group's going to be tending to it on a regular basis, as well as, you know, Partnerships for Parks being able to provide hoses or you know, any other kind of watering paraphernalia that you may need. But I think the water resource itself, again, just it's an ongoing conversation. It is. But when it comes to a water truck, I will say that being established with Partnerships for Parks, we can put those requests in on a more regular basis. They won't always be fulfilled, but they are prioritized if there is an active volunteer group that's going there regularly. So, you know, I think some things to work through, for sure. But I will say with Padgett Park, that's something that's already in conversation with the park manager as well. So no, Danielle, you know, Goldfarb is aware, you know, of some of the logistics, I think, especially when it comes to gardening.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, thank you. I would love this conversation to continue. However, time is running, so we have to give the floor to Ms. Taylor, and then after that, the next speaker will be the community outreach liaison from Councilwoman Farah Lewis. So, Ms. Taylor, you got the floor to introduce your agency and then tell us a little bit about the projects that our community will be happy to work with you for 2024.
All right, greetings again, everyone. So the name of my organization is the Central by Southeast Brooklyn CDC. As Carly said, CXSE CDC, or I've been thinking about, if you actually pronounced it, it would be like sexy BK, but I don't know if that's like too racy for this group. In any event, I just as Carly showed on the last slide, she and I and Berlat met to discuss a number of those projects moving forward. So Heroic Playground, Nostrand Playground, um, and Pattergate. Those are definitely three projects that I plan to work on with this committee. And in addition, there are other events that my organization has planned for the spring. There will be a couple of community bike rides in Brooklyn Bridge Park. This is a collaboration with City Bike, which is part of the reason why, and it's focused on seniors, although I would love it if people, you don't have to be a senior in order to participate. But that's part of the reason why we're having it in a park so that it could be more contained um, for the seniors. And then also I have a couple of other um, events in mind planned just to be out in nature and, as Carly was saying, connecting to the natural world. And one of those events might include some sound therapy. So like maybe somewhere in Canarsie Park or one of the other parks in CB17, having a friend of mine offer to have like a sound therapy with the bowls, and kind of like maybe like a Wellness Wednesday series. So I just wanted to give you a little bit of insight into some other programming that would be happening outside of work on the parks, and welcome you all to join. And so the other thing I would just say is that my organization is committed to the holistic health and well-being of residents of East Flatbush, Flatlands, and Canarsie. So I'm also working quite a bit with Harold Jones, who's the executive director of the Canarsie Community Development Corporation.
Thank you, Ms. Taylor. Any
Thank you.
question for Ms. Taylor? I know that we collaborated a couple of times with your agency, and I truly appreciate that. So we will be working again for this time. And I see Ms. Adele Bennett raise her hand for a question. Before I give it to Ms. Bennett, if you can, Ms. Taylor, put your information in the chat for people who would like to kind of learn more about your agency. Thank you. So go ahead, Ms. Bennett.
Oh, yes, good evening. Yes, I'm council member, assistant council member. But what I wanted to say is maybe you can help us out with that farmers market in one of these nice parks for the summer. Bring fresh organic food or any fresh fruit into this community.
I would love to collaborate with Carly to see how that might happen. Also, I have a relationship and affiliation with Grow NYC, which I know has a number of these projects in other parts of the city. And so maybe there's an opportunity to also explore how, there could either be a partnership or just, again, bringing together all the resources that we know exist already in the community to benefit this part of Brooklyn.
Yeah, thank you, thank you.
You're welcome. It's my pleasure.
Yeah, thank you. Any more questions for Ms. Taylor? I know that we'll have more of a chance to meet Ms. Taylor after today, but if you have a question that can't wait, you can ask this now. You only have 1 minute left. Okay. Knowing none. Yes. Okay. So I think I will say thank you, Ms. Taylor. If anyone has questions after today, you can still reach out to me. I will definitely make sure that you get your question answered by Ms. Taylor, because I know sometimes, questions will pop up after the meeting, and we will be happy. I heard a lot of questions about farmers market. All the time, people ask for that, and I have community members asking for that same thing. I don't know how to go about that, but this is not the first time that people will see us in the park and they will ask, if we also assist with the farmers market. So that, I don't know. This is the question that I will probably explore with Ms. Chamberlain later to see if there is anything we can do about that, because I don't know myself. But, I have a lot of questions about that. When we did this thing during the summer, people ask the same question. So I think there is a need for something, but I don't know what we can do about it. So it's something to think about. So I think someone wanted to say something. If hearing none, I will move on to the next item. A last chance for a question, because it's already time to give the floor to Mr. Daniel. Ms. Adele, I see your hand. Do you have a question, or you forgot to put it down? Okay, great. All right. So we are moving with our, Ms. Colleen, you have a question? Okay, thank you.
Oh, no, I don't. Sorry for that.
Everybody. Go to one.
Oh,
Right.
okay, thank you.
Then it'll be like,
Your voice is cutting.
it's like my husband. He's highly intelligent. Sometimes he'll say things and I don't get it. Sometimes he'll say whatever. And then I just think my own way.
Is it a question that you are asking? I don't know if someone else can hear, but I can't.
She's breaking up. No, she's breaking up just
Oh, I couldn't hear. Sorry. So, Ms. Gordon, if you have a question, you can type it on the chat, because, I have hard time hearing you. So now we have another presenter, which is Mr. Daniel from Councilwoman Salami. He will talk about, some money that we could probably use for children. I know that there is a process to request the discretionary fund. So for that, Mr. Daniel will walk us through, and then we will see how our committee members can be involved. So at least at some point we can have, we can do something for putting it. So, Mr. Daniel, you have the floor. Before you get started, I will ask Ms. Gordon to mute herself. If not, I will ask the DM, can you please mute Ms. Colleen Gordon? Thank you. You have the floor, Mr. Daniel.
All right. Thank you so much, Chair. I appreciate you inviting me to join the meeting. My name is Daniel Heredia. I am here on behalf of Councilmember Farrah Lewis for the 45th District. I'm predominantly here to talk about some updates and that we are doing in regards to the budget season. For folks who are aware of the city's legislative process, the time between January and June is when the city council basically comes together and meets frequently with the mayor's team to discuss budgetary asks and needs for all of the communities across New York City. So one of the major projects that has come to our attention for Community Board 17 has been the revitalization of some of the parks, especially that of Tilden Playground has been a specific point of need, as well as Harry Mays Playground. Those are the two ones that the council member covers that are within the confines of Community Board 17. So I'll give a special shout out to the committee member Linda Turner, just because we had actually sat through some of the specific questions for the preliminary asks that council member has made to the mayor in regard to the Parks Department. That was predominantly some of the revitalization we need to do at Tilden Playground. Earlier last year rather, council member had actually celebrated a ribbon cutting for another park in the neighborhood, but not within the confines of CB17. Some folks may be familiar with Sunner's Playground on the corner of Kings Highway, East 48th Street, and Avenue H. The time has come to start to bring those same kinds of improvements to other areas of the district that required millions of dollars in revitalizing. But now we have an opportunity to also bring this funding to Tilden Playground. So some of the concerns that that the Parks Department has brought up to us in regards to the playground, especially after speaking with multiple community folks who live in and around the area of Tilden Playground, is predominantly in relation to some of the play equipment, some of the conditions of the exterior of the park. You know, we're talking about the fencing, we're talking benches, we're talking about the sidewalk around the park that is not necessarily being properly maintained. As you know, as property owners, everyone is responsible for maintaining their sidewalk. We need to force the Parks Department to do the same thing, as well as to do a general overhaul of the facilities. So this is the specific ask that the councilman, I'm not sure if I'm able to get my camera on during, but I'm just going to pull up the exact language of the ballot that will go for participatory budgeting. So Councilmember Lewis is submitting a budget ask of the renovation of play equipment and amenities at the playground. The playground is in need of new play equipment with updated foam padding at the base, new benches, water fountains, and exterior to support outdoor youth activities and active play. So what does that mean? So some folks I know may have been involved in participatory budgeting when I had started this project, when I started working on this project last year. But the way it works is that every year the council member has a pot of $1 million that the entire district can vote on how to spend. We are including this as one of the ballot items that will be voted on by the community. Now, I'm going to just quickly run, since, you know, Parks and Beautification Committee, the only parks related projects that won last year within Council District 45 was for tree guards. We were able to get tree guards installed on Nostrand Avenue and tree guards installed on Ocean Avenue, which is further away in the CB14 area. Now, we know that there are more folks in CB17 who want to see improvements to our local parks. So what we are planning, and this outreach is going to be conducted in March. So I may be back here, or I might have another colleague of mine join to spread the word about the flyer. We'll also talk about this at the general board meeting, but we are looking at having several events across the district so that more people can find out how to vote, especially if the folks on this committee are interested in getting this, how to get this and how to get the pass for this capital project. I know there's going to be lots of questions. I'm happy to stay on to answer them. Just in general, in terms of other planning that for this summer that pertains to this committee. Last year, we celebrated a relatively safe summer across all of our parks, though we did incur some shootings, some activity that is, not savory for the community, especially at Nostrand Playground. So in regards to this, we are looking at another anti-gun violence rally, as was conducted in partnership with other elected officials and our Cure Violence groups. We need to do more of those to ensure that the kids know exactly what opportunities there exist. That is not necessarily going to lead to violence, get more people engaged, and that's going to be taking place this summer as well. Of course, if folks are interested in volunteering or being part or asking a council member to take part in the committee's activities, we're happy to assist. Myself, along with Sabrina, are predominantly cover this portion as far as our duties in the council office. So we will be able to communicate any needs that any community members have in the area back to her to get them done. So that's my spiel for now, and I'll stay on for any questions that you may have. Thank you.
Thank you, thank you. I already see one or two hands. Thank you, Danielle, for coming to our meeting because children playground is something that we're talking about since I became a chair of this committee, and I have the hope that with the Office of Councilwoman Farah Lewis, we might be able to get something. We don't know what that will be. I have Miss Da Costa. She was a great advocate when I started to talk about children playground. So she probably will have a lot of questions for you. So now I give the floor to Miss Da Costa for questions.
Good
Go ahead and
evening.
unmute yourself.
Okay, good evening. I hear what you're saying about the participatory budget and the $1 million, but I believe I want to say when George was the chair and they did an estimate, it was like $10 million. So what would we be able to get with $1 million? I guess is my question, because as you mentioned, Miss Turner and my husband and myself, and I want to say Jackie as well, have been really adamant about seeing that park really get the renovation that it deserves, and I'm worried that the $1 million won't really go far enough.
Thank you so much for that question. So a big change that's happened, and this is more of a city hall related update. So it's not super, if you're not super savvy with the politics of the city, and I'm not just saying you, it's a very complicated negotiation that took place last year, and I'm talking about FY22. So with the new speaker, a new process, the speaker Adrian Adams has changed the way the process has happened, where we can actually aggregate funds over the course of multiple years and multiple capital plans. I see that we are broke. We're not asking you all to open up your pockets for this. So let's just be clear. We are now able to aggregate multiple sources from multiple places. So right now the council member is in negotiations with the mayor to see about potentially doubling the council's or tripling the council's contribution. I was supposed to receive a quote on what the parks contractor is quoting for us for the renovations that we're proposing this year. I was supposed to receive that last week. I did follow up with Davey Ives, who is the chief of staff, earlier today. So he said he's going to flag it, and by the end of this week, I should actually have a number. So I will be able to not only share the exact budget breakdown, because in the interest of transparency, you as a committee should know how much the real price is. 10 million may have been in a previous time, where right now the city has moved towards design build. I'm sure you might have heard about that in relation to Shirley Chisholm Recreation Center. Design build basically halves the cost automatically because you are assigning the same vendor to both design the upgrades as well as to complete them. For instance, at Sunner's Playground, the project came 50% under budget because of some of the upgrades in sort of how the city is allowed to do business. Most of normally it's very complicated and very expensive because you have to bid out for the design, you have to build out the construction, then you have to build out for various components. We are able to take a more streamlined approach here. So I am expecting the quote that we get to be a lot less. So I'm going to be sure once I get that to forward that to Berlat, and we're going to make sure that she's allowed to share that with all of the committee members so they can know exactly what is being done, what Parks is able to do in this capital plan, and how much it's going to cost and what we need to do to get it done.
Thank you. Thank you for that response.
Thank you for the question.
Any more questions? I know that people have questions. But in the meantime, it's a big question. Besides sharing the information with the members, what can we do as committee to kind of push that, funding to, before us? So what can we do? Do we have to write letters? What can we actually do? Because I think that this money will be out there for a lot of people to request. So is there anything that you can let us know that we should do to make sure that at least we get something? Because we need something for children.
So this is something that I'm going to be very frank with you all. If you've all seen me at CB17, yeah, I try to be honest.
This is part. Huh?
I'm sorry?
Okay. Have a good one. All right. Thank you.
Oh, I think someone's unmuted. Anyway,
Yeah, I'm unable to mute Carlene, so I don't know what she's on. I'm sorry about that.
Oh,
No
I'm
worries.
so sorry.
No worries.
Yeah, all right.
All right, thank you. Yes, so basically, I'll be honest, there's no reason in being untransparent about the process. The squeaky wheels get the grease.
Right.
The council member knows Tilden needs help. And I'm going to answer your question, and I'm going to rephrase it so it's clear. How can we get the higher ups, how can we get City Hall to prioritize Tilden Playground the same way they're prioritizing Central Park in Manhattan, or the same way they're doing, Greenpoint, Park Slope, Red Hook? Trust me, I fully understand that's the real need. So I would encourage you, Chair, to bring this up more at the community board level. I understand that, the community board as a whole has certain priorities, but we need to hear it, and the other electeds need to hear it too. Councilmember Lewis is the chair of the Brooklyn delegation of the city council, co-chair. So she, along with Councilmember Chiosei of Bed-Stuy, have extra pools of money to assign to various nonprofit groups, various capital asks. However, that has to be agreed, and this is political now, that has to be agreed on Brooklyn. All of Brooklyn has to share these priorities. So to get some of these extra funds, we need Community Board 17 to be louder about some of the needs that they need. I'm going to be honest, I go to every CB17 meeting, and, we don't always get the representation at the borough board level. I saw Asher earlier today. That's great. First time CB17 had any representation at borough board in front of Antonio Reynoso in months. I understand, I'm talking actually since I started this job in June 2022. So that's the kind of thing we need to show our bigger elected officials, not just Councilmember Lewis. We're talking assembly member, we're talking about senator, we're talking about, borough president. We need to hear those needs. They need to hear those needs just as loud as the council members championing, so then we can get access to those funds. So in the short term, a letter would be great. In the long term, just more amplification from the chair of CB17 to not all of the electeds as well, and also the citywide electeds, to make sure that Tilden Playground isn't just seen as a small thing. It's important for the safety and livelihood of the community, if that makes sense.
Okay, thank you. Any more questions? Yes. I heard someone started to say something. Is there any more question for Mr. Daniel? And I also want to add, in case that there is some money, will the lighting of Children's Playground be included in case that there is any funding? Lighting will be, because it's very dark at Children's Park. So I just wanted to know if this will be part of, if this will be something that we can include in case we have money for, Children's Park.
Great question. Thank you so much for pointing that out. As far as I'm aware, and this is where it becomes ridiculous with this process. Most parks lighting is actually, and you're not gonna like me, is actually controlled by the DOT. So what that means is for a lot of the lights that you see that are on neighboring the park, but also within the park, they tend to be that's usually what ends up pushing the capital projects over the limits or means that there's problems because now DOT basically has to approve any new conduits, any new electrical that comes from a pole tap in the street. And that's a little bit of a trickier agency. We don't mind DOT as an agency. It's just the process is a little bit more tricky and the costs are way more expensive. Anything that DOT touches, we're talking about $100,000 more expensive, just because their contracting process is different. So as far as I'm aware, the quote that our office has submitted is excluding it right now. What I can do now that you've brought this up, I will notate in my notes to ask Parks and DOT to create a new proposal to see what that cost is like. If we wanted to install, say, 3 more street lights or 3 more light fixtures inside the park or what, as needed. I will say that will be very expensive. And I do not want to jeopardize any improvements right now, because of that. However, we can definitely inquire, and as soon as I get an update, I will bring it back to you.
Thank you. I see a couple of things, but I will add that I reach out to DOT for Children's Park, and they reply back to me. They said that this is not them, this is the park department. So I can forward that email to you, the answer that I received from them. Yes, I will forward that to you.
Yeah, they have preset answers that they give to questions like that, but when it comes to the contracting process, they have the stipulations. So we're having this issue right now at Nostrum Playground where the brand new lightings that they installed 2 years ago is not functioning. Currently, the agencies are pointing fingers at each other because neither of them want to pay to fix it. So we're in the midst, we're scheduled to have a conversation with Commissioner Donahue about that and about some of these other issues. So, if you forward me the correspondence, we can direct it to the correct people at DOT.
Okay, I will, because they said they did an investigation, all of that, going back and forth, and then finally that's what I received as an answer. So, yeah. I have a couple of things. I saw Ms. Taylor, you raised your hand before, right? Ms. Taylor,
yes.
Do you have a question? Yes.
No, actually, I have a comment though. It's almost like we fix one hole and another one springs a leak. With DDC, it simplified the process of building something and cut the cost. But now you're dealing with a different agency to try and get lighting in the park. And what's annoying to me is the fact that they're charging you an arm, a leg, and a couple of toes to do this. But if those lights are out now, then it seems to me it was inferior merchandise, inferior materials that they used. And someone should be held accountable for it because it's been paid for. And there should have been some sort of warranty. It's been, I believe, less than 5 years, and the lights are not functioning, and it's an issue that no one wants to touch. I find that frustrating, but like Daniel says, squeaky wheel gets the noise. So I guess we got to start screeching. I don't know, but it's frustrating.
It is, especially, and just a little bit of privileged information about it. That issue, Danielle Goldfarb is the manager, Nostrum Playground, like all the other parks in the neighborhood, and we love her very much. The folks at Litchfield Villa, which is headquarters at Prospect Park, we've been told they've been back and forth with the manager of the manufacturer. There may be legal action. That's how frustrating this is. That's how every time something goes wrong with a city contracted thing, we have to go to court, and court is expensive and time consuming. And every time that happens, in the meantime, the lights are still out. So in terms of DDC's involvement with anything that would happen at Tilden, I'm not privy to that knowledge. I'm not sure if Parks would do this in-house or if they would do this through DDC. So I can get back to C on that, but I can also inquire, with whatever contracts that they issue, how are we ensuring the quality of the work? That's
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah,
okay.
definitely. Because we kick out all this money and we get some half-stepping business done, and then 3 days later it doesn't work. I just assumed because DDC was brought in by Parks to build the Chisholm Center that if it's a cost-saving concept, which it is, that they would do that with something like renovations and upgrades to, the various parks. Because quite frankly, I'm pretty sure we can't seem to get past Tilden Park because it's a process and it's bureaucratic and we can't seem to get anything done. That's why we haven't moved forward too much between Patagat and Tilden. We know there are other parks in disrepair that need to be upgraded, but we're like Tilden Park is like the little guinea pig. We're going to fix it up and see what the process is, and then we'll whiz through all the other parks that need attention, except that there's no whizzing, okay, where it's like baby steps to get anything done, and it's time-consuming, and it's frustrating, and sometimes counterproductive. But we'll see what happens. See what happens.
Yes, at least we have some hope. I think we are moving, by little, but we are moving forward, anyway, it's hard, but we are moving. So it's 8:56, time check. So we should end soon. I will give the last question to Mr. Costa, because I saw your hand, for a long time. Do you have any burning questions? Because I still see your hand. Mr. Costa, do you have a question? Or you were from previous question? All right, so hearing none.
I
think
just
I saw
wanted to address, I just saw Adele's comment. Again, yes, 1 million is not enough to fix the park. We're not saying it is. We are requesting matching funds. That's so, again, just to reiterate the new process that way, at least PB and how capital projects are now, the council members now allowed to. We're able to match funds. If the council member is able to put up some money from the participatory budgeting process, we can then ask the mayor to chip in. We can then also ask Parks to chip in out of their own operating budget, right? This is a way to put funding towards it. And I understand that, in previously, we quoted 10 million. There's no way to pay for it. No one wanted to invest in Tilden Playground. We're able to now split up the funding sources. We can even ask the assembly member to chip in money. We can ask the senator to chip in money. That's the way Thunder's Playground was completed. Actually, it was only 750,000 from Council Member Lewis's budget, because at the time she had no council leadership. She was just elected. So it was Bill de Blasio and the local assembly member Weinstein who put up the rest of the money to get it done. That's what we're going to be, a similar kind of process is what we're going to look like here. Again, every step of the way, I'll try to make sure that I'm keeping the committee updated. I'll send everything to Berlat just so you all see the progression of this in the next few months in this budget season.
Thank you so much,
Thank you.
Danielle. Any more questions? Because we are about to close this meeting. If there is any question, I will take it. If not, you can still text me or email me your question. I think I called Miss Taylor. I wanted to know if you have a question because I say your name. Was it a question or no?
No, I'm good. I'll just follow up via
Okay.
email. Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you. So at this point, if there is, thank you so much, Danielle, for taking your time to come. Thank you, Ms. Chamberlain. Thank you, Ms. Taylor, for really taking your time on this, Tuesday night to come to this meeting. And I know that we will continue to work together. And one day, children, Pottergate, and Railroad Park, and those parks we need to start funding for some more work. If there is anyone would like to bring something and additional to this meeting, anything happening in the community that you would like to bring to this committee, any event or something, that's the time. You only have 1 minute to do so. If anyone would like to make an announcement, please do so right now. Anyone? All right, so if there is no announcement, I will just ask Ms. Taylor, can you please repeat the event that you mentioned recently? If committee members would like to attend, please repeat that information and then we will close this meeting for tonight.
Yes, I would just repeat that in the spring, we'll have I'll be hosting 4 community bike rides in Brooklyn Bridge Park. So the dates haven't been established yet, but I will definitely let Berlot know when those are happening. And also I will have a wellness Wednesday series, just being out in nature and using nature as like the healer for that series.
Thank you. And also have information on the chat. You can copy that, some links, and I put the information for Mr. Daniel from Councilwoman Sarah Lewis. You can copy that information from the chat. And for now, I will ask for someone to ask to, how do they call that? Not a motion, I forgot the word. To adjourn the meeting.
Adjourn the meeting.
Can someone, did you make a motion to adjourn, Ms. Gordon?
No. I was just,
Just
just saying that. But I guess I could.
like
I'm making a motion to adjourn the meeting.
Second.
I need someone to second.
Second, Adele
I
Bennett.
did.
Oh, she did.
Who second?
Linda Turner.
Linda Turner second. Thank you so much for being here, and thank you for Ms. Fraser, who came early to open the chat and to welcome all of us. And I know that she's very tired, but she's still here with us. Thank you so much. And I think we are closing this session, and then I will follow up with you. There is a lot of things that we need to talk about, including, how to move forward, to advocate for ourselves, for the discretionary funds, and then for the trainings and everything. Thank you all for being so supportive and for being here tonight. Ms. Chamberlain, Ms. Taylor, I will follow up with you by email. Thank you so much. Bye, everybody.
Good night.
Good night.
Good night.
Good night,
Thank
all.
you.
Good night. It was a pleasure.
Good night.
Good night, everyone.
Good
Yeah.
night.
Good night.
Good night, everyone. Bye.
Good night, everyone.
Good night.